Okay, I'm going to try to record something here that I think is very important for people to understand regarding the way that the management of financial holdings of U.S. purview has been systemically since 1913 deployed for nefarious means. To that end, I want to draw your attention to 606 North Washington Street and the idea that if you're looking at the screen, you can also see Bank of America Financial Center, and you'll also see across the street a FedEx Ship and Print Center, and then you'll see Old Town CPAs. But you'll also see a Great Beginnings Early Learning Center and a jewelry store. All of this within a 2-block radius, if you will. And then you'll notice things associated within the general vicinity of what you're looking at that are directly related to the ability to enable without question unreasonable amounts of financial transactions. You say, well, what does that mean? Well, located in that building is this place right here, according to what we know. At least that's what the record says. And this place, to me, is an absolute affront to the idea of transparency in government, because what happens is the federal employees that are retired, while they have a right to assemble and do what it is they do, what I don't believe they have a right to do and what they have done is they've been dorking around with the financial system. I say, based on my observations, it's the retired federal people that were the administrators that have maintained this environment of the usurped Constitution and the usurped laws. So let me just be clear. You're looking at Swamp Rat Central, in my opinion. And I don't care what race, color, or creed you are, or what walk of life you're from. There's a very simple idea here. When you're not a federal employee anymore, you should not be allowed to interact with federal policy and decisions associated with monetary gain to be used via these corrupted election cycles to continue to influence policy after you're no longer a federal employee. My point is the enforcement is lacking on the conduct of retired federal people, or for that matter, anybody else. And to that end, if the juridical face matters, and this is what I'm trying to speak about, is observations that says, while you may be entitled to your opinion about what you see, well, I've been trained to see certain things, and it's based on the innate ability to see patterns that you can't see, and so I've leveraged my own expertise as best I can as a disabled person to contribute to the place that I happen to call my home. And having been a victim of so many crimes within the state and federal purview of, quote, government, understand me, I'm extremely biased when I look at these people, but I'm not so biased that I cannot maintain my neutrality and objective observations. And I think there's no other human being that cannot maintain their objectivity based on the idea that a human being controls what it thinks and feels by its own hand. And the idea that we implemented this thing from the Marxist regime associated with the age of biology and the pseudosciences. It's a lot of make-work stuff that's been going on just to propagate the lies of what happened in 1913 with the usurpation of the right for the American people to know the bills of exchange and instruments of value were innately enabled within the Constitution that says that if you're American born, you are the maker. And as the maker, you're entitled to place your mark where and how it be. And what they did was they did exactly what you've been seeing. They implemented these stupid form systems and these stupid application systems. And they've been gaming the banking system. And they've been gaming the historical assets, which is what's got my attention, because the children deserve the truth of the chronological index of the events of the nation that they were born in. And it don't matter what flag you're talking about. If honoring the flag means anything, then you have to say, what does that flag stand for? Well, today that flag is drenched in blood, as all the rest of them are. And as a soldier, it's like, well, wait a minute. If you're raised a Christian and you read the Ten Commandments and then they tell you to go kill people, it's these types of mixed signals in conjunction with the horrendous number of deaths based on the schemes and scams and the games and the cons and all the other stuff that the human being that is a victim of usury has done in its life. Disassembling the right of these people to influence the political spectrum from a biased standpoint, because they abused the classification of documents that was solely for military use, and they've spread it out into civilian use. And so you can't do that if the Federalist Papers and if the construct of what built the nation exists. And the thing that's happening is, if you look, there were 4 founding documents, one of which included the Articles of Federation. And the idea that they could implement the Articles of Federation in a closed-door environment, which was what they've done at the federal level, based on having handed off the reign of or control of the nation's money supply to basically a Marxist group of people. And while these Marxist people have a right to believe what they believe, they don't have the right to do it in the ability to subvert a nation's right to exist as the founders perceived it to be. So I'll let that go at that, and I'll remind you that what else that they did was they had their own credit union, and I don't think that they've done anything relevant with that credit union. Just like I've told you before, I don't think any of the existing financial audit structures are legitimate to be presented to the executive branch or the congressional branch. But you don't, if you got a rat in the house, you don't burn the house down. What you do is you look at it systemically and say that if you remove the subjective nature and allow for the automated payment stream to work, then you're basically saying we're going to end the usury. And I understand in the world of finance today, the typical person that is in the financial industry don't want to accept that they've been violating the law their whole life, just like the bar card holders that were implemented in violation of the Constitution. So it's what it is. The computer has displaced as it should when technology changes. No different when you say, well, people used to dig ditches with shovels, and then we built a machine that says you didn't have to have people killing themselves with the shovels. Well, we're at the same crossroads when it comes to administrative construct. There is no need for the administrative people's construct, and the ability to retrain these people is very simple. You have to reorganize existing construct that exists in the federal realm, which would be very clear. You can't put people that doesn't have a background in whatever sector of management that you would have, because while you would like to believe that gives you the ability to do cross-training, you can't control cross-training unless you use a military management model. And the usurpation of the military management models by the civilians has taken its horrendous toll upon the ability to protect the traditions and the historical icons and artifacts. I mean, if you look at what they've done, they've got the present perspective that if they're elected, they're being lied to, and they're never given the complete story. And what I say to prevent that is to give the actual lawmakers directly instant control of the spectrum at their own will. And the way that you do that is you get people out of the spectrum management business that have no knowledge or experience or purview of getting there. So there again, you come back to the need to eliminate the pork barrel and the swamp. So I hope this helps people understand a little bit more about what I'm talking about. I'm not advocating that none of these people have a right to be. What I'm advocating is something very simple. Once you're retired, you put your time in. Go devote yourself to the positive side of learning and accept that it's okay that humanity has grown up in a world of usury and debt and poverty. That's all that's ever been recorded. But before us today is a simple reality. In 13 months, you can eliminate usury, debt, poverty, and war, and we're sticking to that as Americans, specific to reestablishing the traditions of man that says a man has the right to be a man, a woman has the right to be a woman, and their children is their responsibility and nobody else's. And if it be found that there are people that are abusing children, well, the community doesn't destroy those people just because something has went wrong. What the community is supposed to do is to have mechanisms in place to address any of the needs that would allow it to be wrong. And that starts with a very basic idea. You have to have clean water, and you have to have clean food, and you have to have a roof over your head, and you have to have the ability to travel in and around your existence free of molestation. And see, that doesn't exist anywhere in the world today, no matter what anybody tells you. It's trying to be, but not really, because people are comfortable using the perverted data flows that exist. So one more time, the nationalization of groups of people that have the ability to cross borders outside of jurisdictions that would make them beholden. Because see, most of them, they sign non-disclosure agreements, they sign all kind of documents about the levels of disclosure, and then they thumb their nose at the paper, and then they turn around and use the same paper that doesn't really have any enforcement anyway, and they knew it, but they'll use that against the civilian populations. So, I mean, this self-promotion and this self-aggrandizing and self-entitlement, it's just so twisted. I stand on what I know. In the beginning, there was the Word, and the Word was sound, and the right to rule was given to the king. And literally, when you understand that, it's very simple. The rule is the measure. And while we can have an opinion about what we see or hear or believe, we cannot implement that opinion outside of the constitutional construct. It says you must have basic adherence to things called ethics. So you can't have ethics in a world of usury. So I'll be quiet now.